Welcome to another episode of the What Moves Her podcast. Guys, today is a special one. I'm joined by two leaders who sit at the center of real estate industry's most important conversations. I have Kamini Lane, President and CEO of Coldwell Banker Realty, and David Dickey, President and CEO of Guaranteed Rate Affinity. Each of them is shaping the future in its distinct and connected ways. Kamini is redefining what modern brokerage leadership looks like, and Dave is steering one of the largest mortgage partnerships in the country through a period of rapid change. Together, they bring a rare, candid look at where real estate is heading, and I could not possibly be more excited to have two leaders who I am both inspired by and have incredible respect for. Kamini and Dave, welcome to the What Moves Her podcast.
Happy to be here, Lindsay. Thanks for that intro. Hi, Dave.
Yeah. Good to see you guys. Good to see you.
Good to see you. This is an amazing partnership, and to have both of you on the show at one time is an absolute treat. I'm going to kick things off with I'm going to give you behind the scenes. So Kamini sent me an email a little while ago, and she's like, can you believe this is the 50th anniversary year of a woman being able to get a mortgage without a man? I was like, no, I actually can't believe that. One, we should absolutely celebrate that. And also, we should get our partners from GRA on to talk about it. So here we are. So thank you, Kamini.
Yeah. And you said 50 years?
50 years. So let's talk about that 50 years is crazy. 1974 is like shockingly recent. So I would love to ask both of you just gut reaction when you reflect on such a major milestone, thinking about the fact that a woman literally couldn't get a mortgage without a male cosigner until just 50 years ago. Like, talk about that.
I mean, it blows my mind because I think back to 1974. So that was just a couple of years before my parents bought their first house. And my mom has actually always driven the real estate decisions in my family. She started investing in real estate for our family probably not long after 1974. And to think that only a few years prior to that, she would not have been able to make those decisions without my dad's explicit sign off, just as like my own personal sort of like reference point for that milestone. It's a little bit mind blowing. 50 years seems like a really long time ago, but at the same time, it's so recent for such an important way for half the population to build net worth. So it's pretty crazy.
Interesting too, because I think about when I entered the business. So 1987, I know that's crazy because you're like, how did you get in the business when you were 6? It was a thing back then.
Exactly what we were thinking.
But not that far from 1974. So imagine that. And because I was reflecting on this and I thought, gosh, when I entered the business, it was various. Equal Credit Opportunity Act, 1974, was just 13 years in the mix at that time. And when I entered the business, the training and rigor around ECOA, the Equal Credit Opportunity Act, was intense. And for me, coming straight in, and I was 23. So when I entered the business, I thought some of the things that came up in the testing, and it was, so even today, we test on Equal Credit Opportunity Act, just to refresh, make sure we all understand it. And, but back then I went through very intense initial training, and then it was repetitive, very repetitive. And so things like, to me, were very strange questions, because I'm coming in the perspective of 1987, and questions like, true or false, can you or can you not ask a woman applicant if she's pregnant?
Yeah.
Why the heck would I ask that?
And yeah, you're thinking, why would I care?
I wouldn't ask that no matter what.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is strange, or here's an even stranger one. I think it was one of the questions was, could you ask a woman if she plans on becoming pregnant? Well, why would I ask this? But so when I think about now, imagine I'm 23, so the workforce around me and certainly the leaders above me had been in the business for 30 or 40 years. And so when I think about why that testing and why that was so repetitive and very intense at that time is because we're in the middle of a cultural shift, something very big, not only in our industry and homeownership, but just culturally. So it's interesting to come in with today's perspective, or even as a kid in 1987, and see the types of questions I was being asked and tested on. It didn't make any, to me, it didn't make any sense at all. because I'm 1987. And to me, kind of same, my mom, my grandparents, my grandmothers, they ran everything, you know? And so I just thought it was very, very strange, but interesting to think about the perspective prior to 1974 and then the training and awareness that had to take place as we move through this cultural shift. Because think about this. If you go back even 30 or 40 years prior to that, we were in World War II. Well, who was holding down the fort? Who was running production lines? Who was building airplanes? Who was building tanks? Who was building military equipment? It was the women, right? And yet we could do all that, but maybe not buy a home yet. So it's interesting how cultural shift and then how things take time to catch up. And in many ways, we still have a lot to catch up on.
I agree. I think I might have a What Moves Her campaign going back to questions in 1987 that sounded weird then, that sound even weirder now. I feel like that's a good Throwback Thursday campaign. So you're giving me, my wheels are turning. Dave, you gave me a good segue to jump to our next question. We still have a long way to go. And I think we talk about this in so many lenses of what moves her, in leadership, in equality, in so many different spaces. In your opinion, and Kamini, in your opinion, are there invisible barriers that are still lingering today that as leaders you're seeing and you're trying to address?
Yeah, I think, there are always invisible barriers. One of them, I think, is something I'm really passionate about, which is role modeling, right? As a person of color or as a woman or, even speaking outside myself, anyone who is aspiring for something that feels like a reach, you feel like it's more possible when you see role models that are exemplifying what you aspire to, right? I remember for myself personally, when I was a little girl growing up in California, I always knew that I wanted to work in business, and there were no female Indian CEOs, right? That was not a thing. That did not exist, certainly not at that time. And then I remember when Indra Nooyi became the CEO and chairwoman of PepsiCo. And she's one of the most renowned business people, business leaders, in the world today. And back then, this was probably in the late 80s or so, maybe it was the early 90s. It was mind-blowing to me to see a woman who actually grew up in the same part of South India that my father did, who was born and raised in India, who came to the US, made her mark, and reached that level of leadership in American business. And to me, that was the role model that I needed. It was like a light turned on, right? For me to say, wow, she did that. Maybe I can do that one day too. And so I think that one of the invisible barriers really is lack of role models. And so I'm really, really passionate as a female leader in being a visible role model. And, that's why I'm so excited about the What Moves Her movement, if you will, because I think, the work that Lindsay, that you do and that the What Moves Her campaign does is really creates a stage for female role models and for male advocates like Dave, who stand up and role model what that looks like, who actually pull out a chair at the table, right? Because it is hard to get a seat at the table, no matter who you are these days. It's hard to get a seat at the table. So who are role modeling and pulling out that seat at the table so that people feel like it's possible. And I know certainly for female leaders, that is one of the things that can be formative and that can break that invisible barrier, is seeing a role model and knowing what's possible.
I love that.
I
think that's a great answer.
I love that. And because truly when you can see it and you can feel it, then you have confidence. And then now the way looks paved. And so possibility becomes more real. And I love that. The role models, I think we could do more. I think in the mortgage industry, it's scary. So like buying a home, and that's kind of the fun part. You're dreaming, you get the neighborhood, you get the school, and then all of a sudden it comes to mortgage. And it's like the music goes, womp, womp, womp. This is going to be hard. How can I get a mortgage? What are they going to ask? And I think from a mortgage perspective, the more we can do I think it's 20 or 24% of first-time home buyers right now are single women. So the more we can do to amplify that and display that as role models is so important, because it kind of happens and then it can ripple slowly by neighbor telling neighbor, friend telling friend, and that kind of thing. But the more we can now with social media as a massive way to amplify those role models. I love that answer. I think it's so important. And we still have a lot of education to do around just the ability to get to a home, period, for anybody. Kamini and I were talking, this was some months back, shocked at NerdWallet, at a recent survey of people, Americans, and said, how much money does it require as a down payment to buy a home? So there's 24% first-time home buyers. 2/3 of Americans still believe you need 20% down to buy a home. How is that possible?
It's wild. It's actually wild.
It's wild.
It's not been like that for a very long time, but it just shows you the work that has to be done for education. Instead of this slow trickle that neighbor tells neighbor, somebody tells somebody, that we really dig in and do more, we as a company, but also within our communities to educate. You really don't need any money down.
Yeah.
Crazy.
It's amazing. Just telling people what's possible. And, one of the stats that I love that I came across recently is women, so younger millennial women around the 35-year-old age range are now comprise over half of all luxury home buyers. So, you kind of think about, we've had a lot of conversation just now about time, right? 50 years since women can get a mortgage on their own, the idea of how that's progressed over time. And now you think about that younger millennial woman who is jumping into the luxury market, and how can we expand that, right? How can we expand that to, older single women? How can we expand that to Gen Z? How do we expand just the knowledge and understanding of what's possible, to your point, Dave, the education around what's possible, and just the fact that the vast majority of Americans have the vast majority of their wealth tied up in the equity of their home. And it is the best way to build wealth in America, in the United States of America. And so, helping folks gain that confidence that we see a very specific tranche of female buyers already gaining, I think is really powerful.
For sure. I have two questions. I'm going to start with one that feels like a toss-up because you just set me up perfectly, Kamini. But if every woman listening right now took one bold step towards wealth this year, what should it be?
Well, and Kamini just said it, like real estate is proven over and over one of the best ways to build wealth. And so I think the thing I would say, because in my mortgage and real estate, is talk to a real estate professional, talk to a mortgage professional, and look at buying a home if that fits your situation. But I think it comes down to education. So I would say, and I say this to a lot of people, there are still a lot of people waiting to buy a home, waiting on lots of different things, timing to be perfect, or they're scared of, you got to put 20% down. So in today's market, our average size loan at guarantee rate Affinity is $450,000. So you're thinking to yourself, I've got to come up with $90,000, right? So I think my advice would be to talk to a real estate professional. Don't wait. Talk to a mortgage professional. Don't wait, and find out what's possible right now.
I think people are shocked at how possible buying real estate is too.
Yes.
Because I think people think about their primary residence, right? And they have these aspirations to buy up these homes and build their real estate portfolio. Like, you can start baby small. Even there are opportunities now with fractional ownership that are really intriguing to me.
Yeah.
I've talked to some friends who are like, I have this money sitting in the bank or whatever. And I'm like, what? But why are you doing that? Like, you have it. It's sitting right there. Just like, go to your point, like, get an advisor, get someone to help you to build wealth. Like, it's already sitting there. Don't let it collect dust. Like, let it work for you.
And I think, to your question, Lindsay, around one bold move, figure out what you can afford.
Yeah.
Because it's gonna almost always be more than you think.
I agree.
The stat, 2/3 of people think that they need to park 20% down, right? $100,000 on average that they need to just go find and stick somewhere. Most people don't have that kind of money. And so when you have that stat ingrained in your head, it's just going to make it seem impossible. So I think the biggest move that anyone can make is figure out how much you can actually afford.
Agree.
Yeah.
And, Kamini, I hear you say this. Of all of the phrases you say, the one that I lock in on constantly is trusted advisor. And the thing that I think both of our companies have so much in common is a legacy of trust as trusted advisors. And, I see the work that our agents and our loan officers do to build that trust and to just use education as a tool to unlock wealth for people. And it's incredible the impact that these conversations have, for sure. So let's stay on the topic of education because it's so important. How do you think real estate and mortgage pros are unlocking access through education empowerment for women? Is there anything in particular you've been really proud of that your company, our respective companies, has focused on, or is there anything coming up that you're excited about?
Yeah, and I would say it kind of ties to that question and what Kamini was saying too. Something that in mortgage we have a lot of work to do, even if you just think in the recent context of the last couple of years, the products and programs that have been developed over the last 2 or 3 years is mind-blowing. In fact, this year, Guaranteed Rate Affinity will serve about 16,000 clients, families this year. And about 20% or 1 in 5 of the transactions that we're doing this year in 2025 did not exist 2 years ago. Crazy.
That's so crazy.
But it goes back to the industry is trying really hard to create, to you guys' point about affordability, accessibility, coming up with programs that can meet today's needs, and still very creditworthy clients, but create unique programs that fit the needs of self-employed. As an example, there are a lot of self-employed people, right? And so we just have so much to do. I am proud that we've come that far in terms of the execution. So we've built these products and programs. We were 20% of our clients this year are being served, but I would tell you even today, it's somewhat reactive on our part, where somebody explores. We haven't yet gone to the communities. We haven't yet gone to what would be ideal or more intimate education seminars around all this, so that we create more awareness, more role modeling, so that everybody can see that it actually is possible now. But I am proud that the products and programs have been developed, and that has definitely helped this year. But I think there's so much work still to be done.
Yeah, and I think the partnership between GRA and Coldwell Banker Realty is very powerful from an education standpoint, because a lot of people have a relationship with a realtor, right? Like, most people know someone. Whether or not it's the person they should be working with is another story, but most people know someone, someone who has their real estate license who they would consider working with. Most people don't have a loan officer that they can just pick up and call,
true.
Right? Just for that sort of like initial what if type conversation. And we're creating that pathway. So, you have a realtor. Hopefully that person is a Coldwell Banker Realty real estate professional. Hopefully that person is a trusted advisor. And if they are, they're going to have a direct line to a GRA trusted advisor. And so you can get that information and that education at really low stakes. Because I know for me, the first time I bought a house, I had no idea how to start with the mortgage process. I had no idea how to get even basic information because I didn't have that relationship. I had my realtor, and I didn't even think, at that time there wasn't a partnership. This was a long time ago. I didn't even think that my realtor could be the pathway for that low stakes conversation, to ask the questions that I was embarrassed to ask, to get to a real human individual that could sit me down and say, this is what you should know. This is what you can afford. These are our creative products. The baseline of knowledge in financing is really low. It is like, for the average person, the baseline is really, really low. And it is really intimidating to even get the most basic information. So from an education standpoint, just our partnership is super powerful because it creates access.
I love that about our model because mortgage is scary and it's not fun. Like I said before,
You make it
nobody
fun. Let's be
looks
serious.
nobody looks forward to that. I'm like, nobody wants to talk to me. But inside our partnership, it does create this unique opportunity. I love that our loan officers, real estate agents, spend a lot of time together. They live together. They do sales meetings together, and so that knowledge together that is shared really easily within our partnership is so unique and so powerful, and it creates again just awareness across the real estate agent. So we continue to come to the sales meetings and provide that education because at the end of the day, real to your point, nobody really runs around and says, I know this, you're right, I hadn't thought about it that way, but about the mortgage loan officer, but everybody knows and has friends, really dear friends that are real estate agents. And so the more we can empower the real estate agent with the latest and greatest and accessibility and affordability, all the products and programs that we've done, the better off we'll be. But I love that it's seamless within our partnership.
Kamini, one of the things that you said that struck me, because I talked about this with Dave the other day, and anyone playing AI bingo, I'm going to bring up AI on this podcast. So get out your card and mark out the square because I can't help myself. But one of the things I was saying to Dave the other day in my obsession with artificial intelligence that you said before that resonated is access to information can be intimidating, or you just might not know where to go. And my thought is, will AI accelerate the knowledge track where people they had to feel vulnerable asking questions like, I know for certain there is someone in the country that's afraid to say, like, do I really need 20% down? Because they just don't want to be judged. And with AI, it's like this direct feedback. You could be really vulnerable. You could ask it the craziest questions. And it's just you and that little chatbot, right? Do you both think that what impact do you think that AI and technology, and forget like 5 years from now, but in the next 12 months, like what impact do you think it's going to have in real estate and in mortgage for women and really any of our consumers?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I take comment. We're all big fans. I'm talking to ChatGPT all day long, for goodness sakes. But you bring up a really good point. I can do that because it's a safe space. I'm just talking stuff out, ideas, you name it. It's not judging me. In fact, my AI thinks I'm a hero, always telling me I'm great, but so I have to calm it down sometimes. But I do think it has, because even in my own life outside of this real estate, other things that I'm not quite aware of or sure of, I can ask questions, I can get information really fast. So it just compresses this gap that I had of education across a lot of different things. So I think in our business, as AI is more adopted and people get more comfortable with it and realize the potential and the access of information they have, I absolutely think it's going to compress this knowledge and awareness gap big time.
Yeah. And I think, using AI to get basic information and to sort of to like enter the game, if you will, right? To close the period of time between curiosity and action, because there is this like neutral party that isn't going to judge you, that you can just ask those basic questions to, I think is really powerful. Not just for the impact that it can have on consumers, but for the opportunity that it gives all of our professionals to level up and to really get to that trusted advisor status, right? Because you think about it from a real estate standpoint or a loan officer standpoint, if you spend less time fielding those basic questions, which we're always happy to field the basic questions, don't get me wrong, but if you spend less time fielding those basic questions, then you can really get to that layer, that level deeper, and get creative, get strategic, really help people figure out what the right product is, what the right home is, how they should be thinking about their entire financial future, and so I think it has a lot of power both on the technology side and on the human side to unlock the potential of those human beings that are at the center of the relationship. Because, at the end of the day, right, real estate is about people. It is about relationships, and that's on the money side, and that's on the four walls side. So I think that that's never going to change, and so there's a lot of potential for AI to really unlock the human side as well.
That's such a great way of putting it, unlocking the human side. I think that's great. We have so many gems during What Moves Her podcast, and I auto think of what's going to be clipped as like, yep, that's a repeatable. We're going to have that playing over and over. We're almost up on time. We're 25 minutes in. I want to ask a final question we're a year away. It's the end of 2026. What is something that you hope to look back on in 2026 to celebrate? What are you excited about achieving with your respective teams in the upcoming year?
Well, gosh, for us, and I think about it's inside the context of this conversation, as well as something that became really obvious to me at Gen Blue this year, was how much we have still yet to do as a mortgage industry to create awareness around products and programs that inside mortgage, we sort of take, I don't want to say we take for granted, but we know them. And by the way, AI is making us smarter and faster. So not only this compression of awareness, but in our field, it's making our loan officers smarter and faster too, to give the best advice on products and programs. But for me, in 2026, I have a whole campaign built around this, and it kind of it dovetails into something called we're going to call it "Get Your Kicks" on Route 2026. So it kind of harkens back to Route 66.
Yes.
Which is going to be the 100th anniversary of Route 66, by the way. I had no idea until we started investigating to this program. But it's all about road shows. It's getting out and being visible, getting to ourselves first, mortgage company, real estate company, but then getting into our communities to create awareness. So for me, I just saw the big gap when we held a workshop on different products and programs that we have available today. And we asked, after a 15-minute presentation to 100 agents, would this help you? Did any of these product or programs resonate? Would that have helped you sell a home this year? Every hand went up. I'm like, oh my gosh, I've got a lot of work to do. So for me, it's evangelizing, possibility. I think we talked earlier about amplifying and role modeling so that others can see it's actually happening. I think that Kamini brought that up. It's so important. So for 2026, it's a big piece of our business plan.
Awesome.
I'm going to steal one of Dave's nuggets, evangelizing possibility. I think that's such a powerful phrase. I will give you credit every time I say it, Dave, I promise. But that is for 2026, I think evangelizing possibility, man, that's become my goal because, like I said before, buying real estate is one of the most reliable ways to build wealth, full stop. And we have an affordability problem in this country. Like that is absolutely a fact. Just the pace of increase of mortgage rates, the pace of increase of price, prices rising, the lack of inventory, the continued strong demand. A lot of people are getting priced out of the market. And that's going to be a reality for a lot of people, but it doesn't need to be the reality for as many people. And so I think evangelizing possibility and getting more folks into homes is definitely one of my huge goals for 2026. We did the American Dream survey. So we surveyed over 3,000 adults across the US. Over 85% said that homeownership is still core to the American dream. So, I want to help more people realize their dreams.
Could there be a more beautiful way to end? I mean, come on. That's unbelievable. Well, you are two powerhouse leaders that I am so blessed to have in my life, personally and professionally, leading two powerhouse companies. This family of brands and companies together is just tremendous. I'm so appreciative of you taking the time to come on the What Moves Her podcast. I'm going to just say I'd like to have you both back. So I think we should just start doing this more often. I really enjoyed it, and I know our listeners will too. So Kamini and Dave, thank you so much. We will do this again soon, I hope.
All right. Thank you, Lindsay. Great to see you, Dave.
Thank you for having us. And good to see you, Kamini. Good to see you, Lindsay. Cheers. Thank you so much. I'll come back anytime. Cheers. But I love it. We're going to evangelize for possibilities.
Evangelize possibilities.
I want it on a t-shirt immediately.
Agreed.